Hello there, welcome to my channel. This is Ultimate Tutorial and I am Oyewumi Emmanuel. Today we shall continue from where we stopped on the extraction of metals. If you are new to this video, please go back to the previous videos where I talked about the introduction to metals, to the extraction of metals. But before I continue, remember to hit the subscription button and also like and share the video for notification on subsequent videos. We'll be treating some episodes. Firstly, we've talked about the introduction to extraction of metal, and particularly today we'll be talking about the preliminary preparation of metals. Other times we'll talk about the principles needed to extract metals. We'll talk a little about group 1 elements. We'll talk about the extraction of sodium metals. We're also going to talk about the extraction of calcium metal, aluminium, tin, and some other metals. So stay glued to this channel as you receive videos on each episode. Alright, when it comes to metals, there are some terms that is needed to be known as a chemistry student or a chemistry professional. On these terms, some of them include the minerals and ores. Okay, now minerals are the combined form of metals composed of more or less definite chemical composition. We've talked in the previous video. I told you that we have some metals that are found in a combined state. So we are saying now that the minerals are the combined form of metals. The combined form of metals. So mineral is not a metal but a combined form of metals. Now, although they have different metals coming together, combined together to form minerals, but then they have definite chemical composition. The definite chemical composition means that the amount of these metals that are present in these minerals has specific in amount. They are specific in amount. They don't vary. So if we have metal A, metal B, metal C, metal D, all of them put together, they have definite specific quantity in that mineral. Okay, and then when it comes to ores are formed when minerals combine with earthly materials. So now most times minerals are not just found hanging around. Minerals are found in the soil or in the sand, or with earthly material. So when I say earthly material, I mean talk about dust, talk about sand, soil, covering that particular mineral. Okay, so when we have a mineral with earthly materials around it or in it, we no longer call it just a mineral, we call it ore. So when I say metallic ore, I am talking about a particular mineral that contains that metal that is surrounded or contain also the earthly materials like dust, like sand and all. Okay, now so before metal is extracted from its ore, there are some things that is needed to be done, kind of preparation. Just like before a patient in the hospital would go for surgery, there are some things that ought to be done on that patient. There's some preliminary preparation that ought to be done on the patient. Okay, and before you go on a project, there are some preliminary things you should put in place before you start your project. Also, in the industry where metals are to be extracted, there are some things to put in place before you go into the extraction proper. So the preliminary preparation of metals include just fundamentally two steps. Number one, talking about the concentration of the ores, and number two, talking about the roasting of the ores. These are the two major steps that is needed to prepare a metal or a particular ore for a particular metal for extraction. Now, on the concentration of the ores, I'll talk about three things to be done on a metal, or on the ore, in order to concentrate the ore. So when you hear the concentration of ore, I don't mean concentration like the other concentration you have in chemistry. when you talk about the amount. All right, I'm talking about preparing this ore for extraction. Okay, now so one of those things that you need to do, one way by which you can concentrate a particular ore is by washing with streams of water. So you need to bring the ore to where you have constant flow of water, and then you wash. So washing is one way of concentrating a particular ore. And why do you wash? You are washing so that you can remove earthly materials, the earthly material that makes it ore. You are trying to wash it off, wash it off the material. Now, for instance, metals like tin ore. Tin is a metal. When you get the ore of tin, you need to wash it first because of the impurities around it, the earthly materials around it, so that you can actually get a pure ore. I'm sure you get it right. Now, the other way to concentrate an ore, let me remind you again, concentration an ore means that you are trying to remove impurities around the ore, things that you don't need, okay, so that you can get your metal, what you actually need, okay. So that's what we call concentrating ore here now. So another way you can concentrate your ore is using a method called the froth flotation. Okay. In the froth flotation, what we do is that we pick that particular ore and then we mix with oil and water. You mix with oil and water, you mix and you stir the whole mixture together. You stir, and when you stir, as you stir, you start to see foam, what we call froth. Now, froth means foam, F-O-A-M, foam coming out of your mixture as you stir. And then as you keep doing that and the foam comes out, alongside with the foam allows the metal or your pure ore to float. Okay, the foam in the froth, now you have your ore floating on the froth, and then so as it floats on the froth, you just skim the froth or the foam off the mixture. As you skim the froth, you have your ore alongside, and impurities are extracted. They are removed somehow. So that is froth flotation. I'm sure you get that. Example of a metal that we can that we can concentrate like that. Example of a metallic ore we can work on is the zinc ore. When you have a zinc ore, it is best to do a froth flotation, so that you can actually get your pure ore from the impurities that is surrounding it. Do you understand? Okay, now. And lastly, you can also use the magnetic separator to concentrate an ore. So now when it comes to magnetic separator, then it means that when you get a particular ore, the pure ore will be that kind of ore that has high magnetic property. Okay, so when it gets into a magnetic separator, what happens is that the part of that ore that has high magnetic property will pile up on the magnet, and the other part of the ore that has a very low magnetic property, that is not really attracted to the magnet, would just move straight, would not be deflected towards the magnet. It will just go off, right? And so by so doing, you can get your pure ore from the magnet, right, in the magnetic separator. An example of an ore that behaves like that would be copper ore. Now, copper ore would be deflected towards the magnet, while every other impurities around the ore will just pass by and will not be deflected or attracted to the magnet at all. So that is the magnetic separator. That's a way you can concentrate an ore using magnetic separator. I'm sure you get that, right? So lastly, on the preliminary preparation of metal, the second approach, which is basic, is the roasting of the ore. When we talk about roasting of ore, okay, what it means is that we are trying to burn the ore in oxygen. We are trying to make the ore burn in oxygen. Okay, so now when we say roasting of ore, which also means burning oxygen. What we expect to do is that we are trying to convert this ore that we have now. After we have concentrated it, we are trying to convert that ore to an oxide form. I'll say that again. You are trying to convert the ore, the pure ore you have gotten by concentrating, to an oxide form. So most times you've heard zinc oxide, copper oxide, sodium oxide, all of those things, right? Sometimes are gotten through the process of roasting the ore of that metal. Okay, so because it is best to actually extract metal from their oxide form than we can get from their sulfide or trioxocarbonate form. Okay, so we roast in air so that it can react with oxygen or combine with oxygen, and then you have the oxide form. Okay, so it is with this oxide form now you can now go to the next stage of the main extraction of the metal. Alright, so that brings us to this episode, the end of this episode on the extraction of metal. I hope you have learned a lot in a simplified version. Again, please hit the subscription button to get notification on more videos, and also like and share to your friends and families so that they can learn. People who are interested in chemistry, they can learn more from this channel. Thank you for watching. We'll meet again on the next video.